welcome back. And first episode in the new place. Exciting stuff. Fancy Matt, how are we doing?
What's up?
Hey,
Going into week 12 here, episode 39. Um, Matt, we saw the Lions just absolutely obliterate the Jags. Fancy, we saw you guys put the Bears fans on suicide watch once again without Rodgers. And we saw the Eagles take over the division on the NFC East on that Thursday night game. So good weeks for us as fans. Um, Bummer news: John Gruden will not be back in the NFL as much as we have wanted to see him come back to the NFL. He did sign with Barstool Sports. It's been fun to see him there, Matt. I know me and you've really enjoyed seeing his psychoness.
I love the serial killer aspect of him, like in front of that whiteboard, and just like the whole
with the light like glimming down on his face.
yeah, like and
Most
the whole
serial
thing's
killer
just
vibe ever.
filled with all these stats and everything, and he's just a crazy person. But we
Yeah.
loved it, and that's why they signed him. So it's good to see.
Yeah.
But you're right; it's sad that he's not going to be in the NFL as a head coach probably next year. So
Yep, absolutely. Last week we went 8-3 as a consensus pick. So this week there's 13 games. We have 11 of the same picks out of those 13 games. The only person that went against the against each other was you, Matt, in 2 games that we'll get to. The teams on the bye this week are the Falcons, Bills, Jets, Saints, Jags, and Bengals. Nailed it. Like I always do, I have some fun stuff for you guys to go over. Not as many as last week, but it is still some fun ones to get through. Joe Burrow has thrown 9 touchdowns against the Ravens this season and has lost both games. I know that was week before because the Bengals just lost the Chargers last week, but the Steelers just beat the Ravens without scoring a touchdown. So that's why that stat is a little bit relevant. Joey B and the Bengals put up 9 touchdowns, and the Steelers did not put up a touchdown, and they won that game. Another Joe Burrow stats. This season, Joe Burrow, 3,028 yards, 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Literally an MVP season, as me and Matt predicted. But the Bengals are 4-7, and they will most likely miss the playoffs, which is an absolute bummer. Winning percentage as a Jets starting quarterback: Zach Wilson, 0.364. Sam Darnold, 0.342. Aaron Rodgers, 0.273. So that is quite interesting. Another kind of Packer, Aaron Rodgers related stats. Fancy, you'll love this one. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, talented wide receiver who long struggled with poor quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen, finally has unleashed his talent with an elite passer in Derek Carr. How about that report right there, Fancy? My goodness.
I see him popping off at the Saints, and it's like you're playing your best ball at the worst
quarterback in your career.
It's like, dude, you would have rings if you
caught a football.
I mean, like if you would still be with Kansas City, and I bet they wish they would have had him, still with the injuries they had. And it's like he's finally catching the ball. It's like, God darn.
Yeah, absolutely. The Chargers, on the other hand, are just they're allowing 13.1 points per game this season. That is the fewest points allowed by a team in their first year under a new head coach in the past 20 years. The second best to that record, the 2011 San Francisco 49ers, also coached by Jim Harbaugh.
Love it.
Kind of a cool stat there. Matt, you'll love this one. Jacksonville's 46-point loss on Sunday versus Detroit was the worst loss in franchise history, surpassing their 44-point loss the Jacks suffered to the Lions in December 1995. So you guys have handed the Jaguars 2 of their worst losses in their entire franchise history. So that's, on top of that game 52-6, Matt, you mentioned another scoregami. It's the 1,088th unique final score in NFL history. So kind of a cool stat there. Not to keep bashing the Bengals, but the Bengals kicker, Evan McPherson, has missed kicks in 4 different one-score losses this season. He missed an extra point in Kansas City. The Bengals lost that game 26-25. He missed a field goal against Washington. Bengals lost 38-33. He missed a field goal against the Ravens. They lost by a field goal in overtime. And then he missed 2 field goals against the Chargers, and they lost by 7. So
that's why you feel so bad for Joe Burrow because he's putting up this great season, like we predicted.
going right.
but they just can't quite get those wins. And obviously, you got to get to the playoffs to be able to do anything, and you can't when you're losing those one-score games because of something stupid.
Especially when it comes to special teams. I mean, they have a really tough defense. So the fact that they're even coming close in some of these games is kind of insane. I literally have one more Bengals stat before we hit some Steelers stats before we dip into some games. So obviously, I went over the stats through the first 11 games. Bengals are 4-7. Burrow for over 3,000 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Players to achieve 3,000 passing yards, 27 plus touchdowns, and 5 or fewer interceptions through the first 11 games. Tom Brady in 2007, they were 16-0. 2015, they were 13-3. Aaron Rodgers did it twice. 2011, 15-1. 2020, 13-3. Patrick Mahomes in 2020, 14-2, and Drew Brees in 2018, 13-3. So the worst record out of a quarterback with Joe Burrow's stats in history is 13-3, and he is sitting at 4-7. So Matt, me and you quite literally nailed it on the head with Joey B is going to come back and have an MVP season, and the Bengals have done everything in their power to make sure that that award is not going to go to him. Yeah. Staying with the AFC North side, a fun little fantasy one, which I know most of you guys are probably like really upset about. Chris Boswell, number 1 kicker in fantasy, number 1 kicker in the NFL at the moment. He has more fantasy points this season than Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Smith, DJ Moore, AJ Brown, Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, Travis Kelce, and Trey McBride. All of those guys drafted probably 3rd, 4th round.
As a kicker, just
as a kicker,
that's
outscores
wild.
them. Those are some crazy names. Obviously Cooper Kupp injuries. There's some injuries on that list, but still, that is by far a crazy stat. And then
meanwhile, real quick. Meanwhile, you're seeing like Justin Tucker
missing a lot, and he came up with the excuses that the playing field or whatever was really weird against the Steelers, but then Boswell was 6 for 6. So it's like,
so I know you don't draft kickers, till the end anyways, but like, there's a couple of guys who you want to actually try to target and pick up, and it's Boswell is the one that's leading the pack. It's crazy.
Yeah, Tucker and Aubrey were leading every single draft that I was a part of when those two. But the Steelers going into this Thursday Night Football game, a fun fact about the Steelers, which last week I think I was the only one that did pick the Steelers. No, in fact, you were with me, right?
Steelers, Ravens. I think I took the Ravens.
Okay. So yeah, you're right. I might have been by myself with the Steelers, and I gave you guys that stat about how Lamar, has played terrible against the Steelers in his career.
Yep.
I talked to you guys pre-pod about how that probably was statistically his worst game of the season, even though he is having an MVP season. A fun stat for you guys going into this Thursday, even though none of us, are betting against the Steelers. The Steelers have never won a road divisional Thursday Night Football game under Mike Tomlin. They're 0-7 all time and 0-5 under Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin on the road in Thursday Night Football is 2-8.
But it's the Browns.
It is the Browns.
So that's why
also the AFC North divisional opponents, and it gets weird and it gets feisty and it gets it's who knows? There's Jameis Winston going into play, so anything's possible at that point. But going into the Thursday Night Football game, last week I finally landed at the top of it, going against the threshold quite a bit on some of my picks. At 11-3, Fancy, you went 10-4, and Matt, probably not your worst record of the season, but 8-6. Still not bad whatsoever. Matt, you're still in the lead at 105-61. I'm in second at 103-63, and Fancy's in third at 101-65. We did see me move up just a little bit closer to you, Matt. You're making your way, whatever. And this week, hopefully, me and Fancy go 13-0, because me and Fancy picked every single week or every single matchup together.
Yeah, you have a chance to tie it up with because we have 2 games different this week.
Yeah.
So
if we all, I didn't even think about it that way. That is true. But Thursday Night Football, we just talked about it. We all picked the Steelers against the Browns. Even barring all those stats, like you said, Matt, it is the Browns. It is kind of crazy that the Steelers aren't favored more than a field goal when it is the Browns, and they've really struggled. And the Steelers defense has been great. But I mean,
you got to score a touchdown to be favored by more than a field goal. It's like
That is a fair take. That is an absolute fair take. Kind of a lot of the times like, when we're taking the Broncos this season, I know Fancy, me and you took them last week against the Falcons. I'm kind of just I kind of just picking the defense. You know, Fancy, you mentioned the Steelers possibly making a Super Bowl sneaking into the Super Bowl run with the way their defense is played. And their offense is still kept up in games. I know they're settling for field goals, but over time, a coach like Mike Tomlin can get that kind of figured out. We've been seeing Justin Fields come in on a lot more plays, Matt, which I don't know if you saw, has been cool. A lot of 3rd and 1s or 4th and 3s or 4th and 2s. They'll run like a crazy power option with him and Najee and Jalen Warren back there, and it's kind of really tough to stop because you don't know which one of them is going to get the ball, and they're all going different ways. So it is pretty unique. So I think as the season goes on, we see that offense to start maybe executing a little bit more because I think the offensive side of things, you defense does win championships, but you cannot be that reliant on your defense that you need to keep them like under 14 points a game. You know, it's like
Right.
you can't out field goal a team every week. You know, not in the NFL at least. So especially like you mentioned, if the Lions do make it, they're gonna be putting up more than 14 points.
Yeah.
So, and then we have a Vikings Bears game. We all picked the Vikings. Yeah.
Skull Nation.
Do the Bears give up yet? I mean,
I know
I
their
think-
fans have.
I think we're at that threshold right now of if they have another just heartbreaker, you know, I think it's
When I saw them at 4-2, I told them they had to get to 6-2 or 7-2 before that stretch of the season happened. I called it weeks ago.
yeah.
And I think genuinely the turning point for their season, and we're going to talk about it 1,000 times probably, is that Commanders game. That
Sure.
Commanders game of the deep ball. All of a sudden they lose that game. Then they lose against the Cardinals. Respectable loss against the Cardinals. Then they lose against the Patriots at home. I mean, no one expected that to happen. And then Fancy, being the owner of the Packers,
Had to do up something special just to remind them in Soldier Field.
dude.
You know, one of the last times that they'll play, get the chance to lose to the Packers in Soldier Field. You know,
Make it
So,
memorable.
They're inventing new ways to just have devastating losses.
The amount of text messages I got, dude. I'd rather lose by 100 than have it be this close. This team sucks. My life sucks. Like I mean, it was just like I was literally just copy pasting, sending it to Fancy, and Fancy was just having a day.
I think it's so interesting because I think it was either Pat McAfee or Big Cat breaking down that block, and it's just interesting because on so many of these games we're seeing these dumb penalties or some kind of game changing, and they let that one go. They let the game get decided on that block instead of did they use leverage? Did they line up over the long snapper? Did they do any of the stuff? But I love to hear that they knew going into it they had a chance to block a field goal, and then that's how they ended up winning the game, was off a block field goal. So that was pretty cool.
yeah.
Absolutely.
When you hear those guys break down the difference on those, it's just like this is what leverage is and this isn't, and it's like I like Mike Piara, I think is who Mark he brings it up, and it's just I mean I guess it's like a doctor talking about surgery. I'm just like I don't see it the way you see it.
Yeah, it goes so in depth sometimes. I think one of the games, I think it was Monday night, the Texans Cowboys game, there was a swiping to the head penalty. Did you guys see that? I was like,
Yeah.
I've never heard them say that before, but when it was off of Derek Barnett, first round draft pick from the Eagles and won the Super Bowl with us, actually had the sack that Brady fumbled on to win a Super Bowl, and he off the line like came up and like smacked the guy's head to like shift through. You can't make, I guess, contact that way off the line, or it was something weird. I was like, I've never seen that call before.
I don't know. I didn't see it, but then I think about like the defensive player literally punched Ferguson in the head.
Yeah.
I don't understand because I
guess that's ruled as like they're going after the football, but then the other one's ruled as like a health issue. I'm like, well, that dude's throwing punches like harder than Mike Tyson was. Like, I don't know, like but Lions Colts next game up on the noon slate. We saw the -14 and we were getting a little worried, and obviously the Lions cleared it by a long shot. We did see the Colts come away with the Jets, a win over the Jets. Actually a pretty impressive win by the Jets. Anthony Richardson actually looked like a quarterback against them, which was interesting to see. Which there's a lot of speculation in this game But Matt, obviously this is your team, so I'll let you, take the reins of it there.
Yeah, I want to see them just keep rolling, right? I mean, they're showing that they have the drive to just absolutely do whatever they can do every game. They're not slowing down. So I fully expect them to do that again. This is kind of one of those sneaky ones where Richardson did look good. So it's kind of a new dynamic that you have. So I fully expect them to just play absolutely lights out on offense, and then on defense, they're looking great too. So, don't slow
Not too
down.
worried about this one.
Yeah, don't slow down here. I think we
There
just
you go.
keep going.
Absolutely.
How much further are you going with the Lions before you start resting people in playoff prep to when you start worrying about
Not
So
for
that-
a
like
long time.
games like this? It's like there's no need to have
I
everybody out there getting full reps, and risking injury.
I know, but that's the problem is like we were even seeing it against the Cowboys. We were seeing it against the Titans and now the Jags. We're still up by 4 or 5 touchdowns, and we're still
that's by the way, people listening, that's what Fancy means by that. Not resting in terms of
Like, not
benching
even
Jared Goff
playing.
going this week.
Yeah.
Meaning like you're up 28-0.
Fourth quarter, take 'em out.
Yeah. Well, you're up 28-0 in the fourth quarter. Why is Jared Goff still in? Is what Fancy means.
And that's and the difference is we didn't see Hendon Hooker did come in the fourth, but you're right. In the second half, why did they not sit some of our starters? So
especially for the other guys to get game time, because if we need you in the playoffs, it won't be not to knock any NFL team, but it's like it won't be this easy.
Right.
It's like
I saw a fun stat. I didn't. I wish I would have had it for our pre introduction thing. It was like this whole breakdown. It was actually pretty in depth about how the Lions this year are literally the Cowboys of like the last 3 to 5 years, where they just absolutely whoop on some teams and they never stop.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, what's funny is the Cowboys always got shit for it, and the Lions are like, everyone's like, this team is so fun. Dan Campbell's great. And then the Cowboys, they're like, relax. You're whooping on, the Patriots without Brady. You're whooping on, the Commanders without whatever. And then it's like, for me, the difference was when I was reading through it, I'm like, well, the difference is the Lions have beat some teams. Like that's the difference to me, is you guys have beat teams that are competitive. The Cowboys were doing it, and they were only whooping on the teams that were not competitive. Like,
and the Lions can win a playoff game, and the Cowboys just can't.
That's the difference.
It's like they continue after the regular season's over, and then the Cowboys just
they know what the win column is in January.
Yeah.
So, no, I thought it was interesting though. I mean, it is. I think it just goes to show you how much people hate Dallas. It's like everyone, even like the Bears fans, are like, watching the Lions is fun. I like Dan Campbell. Like they will literally say it. It's like, and so are you fans. He's a Packers fan. It's like, I like Dan Campbell. I enjoy the Lions. It's like
I love
fun.
a good coach. Like we just talked about John Gruden earlier. Like Dan Campbell's one of those guys. Andy Reid's one of those guys. We like him. Harbaugh's, both of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they're just going to keep it rolling. They went 7 for 7 on drives for touchdowns to start it. We've got arguably one of the best punters, and he didn't even have to punt. So, I mean, I think that's the mentality every week now.
Absolutely. Good. Yeah. And then we got Dolphins over the Patriots. Really nothing to talk about in that matchup besides the fact that we all pick the Dolphins, and the Dolphins need to win if they think they can turn their season around in any shape, or way, or form. Hill is healthy, Waddle's healthy, Tua's alive, Jonnu Smith starting to get a lot of traction, and their defense has actually held up really good this year against some offenses. So this is a game that they should absolutely win if they want to sneak into a wild card spot. I think division championship is completely out of the way. Like there's no way that happens now with the Bills kind of running off with it. But we all have the Dolphins in that one.
It's just New England's one of those scary teams that they're getting it. They're
Those
getting it
3 wins
together.
they
in
had,
some
they
games,
should not have. Yeah, they should not have
Oh,
had. So
one thing that I wanted to point out real quick though is Tyreek's got this wrist issue. That he's been dealing with
from the rest. Yeah,
but I just saw him on TikTok Live playing Fortnite on Wednesday on his rest day. So I don't know how that's supposed to work, that he's playing video games.
Supposedly he needs surgery.
So again, I don't think that's a smart move. Do you? I mean,
you play Fortnite. I mean, you tell me. Do you use your wrist a lot?
I mean, enough. To where if you can't play, up to your potential in a professional sport, you probably shouldn't be, that reminds me of the Detroit Tigers pitcher. This was years ago when
I
we were
think I
making a
remember this.
playoff run. He was playing Guitar Hero and hurt his forearm.
That's what it was. It was on the yes. That's really exactly what it was. I forgot about that. I knew when you brought that up, like it would ring a bell, and that's
Yes.
exactly what it was. It
So
was
that's
on the
what I'm
whammy
equating
bar
to.
too. That's what it was. It was literally he like hit it too hard, and it hurt his wrist, and he actually missed some time because of it.
Yep.
Wow.
Could
So
you
that's
imagine
why-
walking to work like, "Hey guys, trainer here? Like, why? What's up?" I was
Actually,
I would
going
lie.
hard on Guitar Hero last night. And
and I won't go off on a tangent, but I do want to know. I do have an inside story for there's the he was either tight end or wide receiver for the Lions, and he got hurt mid-season. Can't think of his name right now, but he made up this elaborate story of tripping on his new puppy when he hurt his ankle.
was that not Eric Ebron?
No,
Oh.
it was another guy. And I have the inside scoop on the true story behind it. I don't know. I don't remember if he ended up telling it in a podcast or something, but just so you know, that's
That's
another
great. I
dumb
wonder
injury.
how often that happens of like an at-home injury, and they're just like, dude, I can't play this week. like,
Yep.
like I fucking slipped taking the garbage out. like like my back, like
Bro.
rolled out of bed and just like got up, and their back just fucking. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, just they're human beings just like us, man. Then we got Tampa against the Giants. I am happy to see Mike Evans back this week. We'll talk about Mike Evans a little bit more as it goes on. There's really not a single matchup on this specific page that I'm excited to talk about. So stop me if you guys really have a certain thing you want to say. But we all took Tampa against the Giants. We all took Washington against the Cowboys. We all took the Chiefs against the Panthers. It's just like every matchup, I just don't see how the other team wins.
Look at the spreads on all these. Yeah.
And then the Texans. I mean, the lowest one is 6, and I really think that's kind of disrespectful to the Bucs because they've hung in there with Chiefs. They've hung in there with a lot of really good teams without Big Mike and without Chris Godwin. So coming off a bye, they should be a lot healthier. And I think this is one of those wins that we look at it and say, yeah, the Bucs should win this game. But at the same time, they kind of need to win this game, right? They're 4-6. It's like that NFC South is still kind of wide open for the taking with the Falcons constantly dropping games. So
They could definitely get the ball rolling with this game.
Absolutely.
The only thing that's scary about that game,
Tommy DeVito,
is they're throwing in Tommy.
He's 3-3 in his career. He's the reason the Giants didn't have a top 5 pick. Oh, top 3 pick, I should say.
It's one of those games where that just kind of makes me think: is he going to have this new, weird storyline like he did last year, where he comes in and he all of a sudden
his agent's got the hat and his fucking the gabagoo and
So
they're in New York too, dude. His whole family's gonna be there. Fucking mob.
So I mean, I'm rooting for him because I've got neighbors in
Beast Nation
in our league. So like, I'm hoping he just tosses the ball around, but at the same time, that's what we love about Baker in the Bucs is that they're also going to be slinging the ball too. So maybe we'll have a weird shootout in that game.
Yeah, maybe that'd be pretty interesting. Baker versus Tommy DeVito in a shootout. Then we got the Broncos over the Raiders. Still not much to talk about in this game whatsoever. The Broncos, I mean, me and Fancy, I feel like me and you have picked them quite a bit this season. Last week with me and you coming off of a win with them over the Falcons. Matt, you had the Falcons.
Yep.
Bo Nix, I mean, I had this weird thing where I was like looking through Justin Herbert and Bo Nix, and I like started to make the connection of they both went to Oregon, and they both, kind of have a very similar play style. Like I didn't realize. I think Bo is more quick to run. Like he's a little bit more agile and like moving, like mobility wise as a quarterback. But like if you look at them both play, I think there's a lot of similarities. And I think we're starting to see that come out. And realistically, both Herbert and Bo Nix don't have a lot of targets this season. But Herbert did come into the league as a very good passer, but was also passing to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Hunter Henry was there, and Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon. Like he had a loaded team. But I think Bo Nix is doing a great job with what he has there in Denver. And I think it is a credit to Sean Payton. I really do.
Yeah, I was gonna say they both have coaches that are gonna absolutely coach them up and give them the opportunity for success, and we're starting to see it both and for both of them, right? We're starting to see that success. It's kind of clicking, kind of coming together in these, maybe this, second half of the season. We're really starting to see them come alive, and I attribute it a lot to those coaches too.
Yeah, and that Broncos defense has been tough for a lot of teams. Even the Chiefs really struggled against, that Denver defense at home. And so if Andy Reid struggles a little bit, it's a legit team. Packers 49ers though, Fancy. Would you like to show everyone the ownership mug that you have on the pod today? The mug.
Oh yeah. I just got this.
It's like, what?
I just got this little. I was trying to think. I was thinking about this
Motown
game.
Miracle. Explain
Yeah.
explain to everyone. For people that aren't Green Bay Packer owner.
Well, I remember watching this game, and you see this play here.
Matt's
Basically,
contemplating the things that he can say right now.
No, we already went over this because I was trying to figure out what game that was and going back.
No, you didn't
over
understand it right away. I knew right away what he meant.
No,
Show
it's
the back of it, Fancy.
Yeah.
It's the Phantom face mask call that sets up a Hail Mary for Aaron Rodgers.
Tea, literally. Fancy's under the weather, so he's literally drinking tea.
Unbelievable.
It makes it taste better.
Hey, but congratulations! It was a great play for you guys, but it was clearly not a face mask.
The reason I remember that play is just because Big Cat was there, because he was dressed up as the Lions because they needed the Packers to lose for the Bears to get in or something weird.
Was that the game that he had the full
he had the whole shoulder pads, the helmet, everything? He was there because Aaron Rodgers talked about it on the pod when he was there or whatever. Because he said you had front row seats to that, right? Like or whatever. So it was great. But no, Fancy, tell us why beating the 49ers at home in Lambeau is going to happen in the regular season, even though it never happens in the playoffs.
Dude, I'm really not even sure that it's going to happen this time. I mean, I feel like we're getting wins. It's just like we're not playing our best football, and like the reason why these games are close is just, I mean, you see the age of the team and even the age of the coach, it's like, it's definitely, just younger overall. And, these penalties that just
keep happening.
And it's the same shit every week. And it's like, good grief. Like, I mean, the Niners, I said they were going to slide this year. I mean, some of that's due to injury, but I do see a little fall. Like I see this as like the most equal game. Cause it's like the Niners wins and losses have been like, yeah, you kind of shot yourself in the foot on that one.
And the
you're
Packers could
lucky
be
on
in that
this
5-5 spot. Yeah,
I mean, easily we could be 5-5. I mean, we could also easily, I mean, the biggest loss was what? I mean, we lost by 14 or 10 to the Lions, and that was, I mean, a missed field goal and a pick six that should have been thrown away. I mean, everybody who watched that's like, why would you throw that? And so it's like you can look back on every single game and it's like, yep, there's that. It's just the same as like I preached with the Lions last year. It's like you went for it on fourth down instead of this, and it cost you. And it's like we're having those same kind of. It's just not on fourth down. We're just having these same plays where it's like, I mean, I think some bad play calling or the routes are weird, and I'm just like, these guys aren't getting open this way. We got to do something else,
Yep.
Josh Jacobs stays producing though, so
yeah. When I looked at this matchup, I saw that in mind of like the Packers are 7-3, and they could easily be 5-5, and they could easily be 4-6, and they can easily be 9-1. Like I was like, and that's the way I looked at it. And obviously, everyone would be like, yeah, no shit, everyone can have whatever. But like looking at them, it's like they have the talent around them. They're shooting themselves in the foot most of the games and still coming out with a win somehow. We saw that against the Bears. It's like they should easily be 6-4. So with that in mind, I think this is the game where you're coming back home. It's against a team that you do have a chip on your shoulder because this is the team that constantly comes in and crushes your guys' last 5 years' dreams, right? So I think this is one where they get their ducks in a line and they come out swinging, and then they get back in that win column, and then they start rolling. Because I don't mind a 7-3 team that's 7-3 with it's like we've been not playing good football because your best football is ahead of you now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where like Matt, for me, the Lions and even the Eagles last year, it's like they were rolling through every team, and it was like, man, something's gonna happen where it's not gonna click. And it's like if you're clicking like you are now going into playoffs, I like that better. And I think that this could be a game for the Packers that kind of gets them in that order. And on the topic of you saying that the 49ers, we're going to start sliding down, which we've seen it happen. You can argue injuries, you can argue whatever. But I saw an interesting story about Manti Te'o literally talking about way before the season started, saying that he thinks the 49ers are literally in a depression mode, or I forget the way he worded it, of just like um, they're just demoralized. Like
Yeah.
they've lost 2 Super Bowls in 3 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
They've they keep going to the NFC Championship the last 4 years and never won a Super. And it's the same group of guys. And so how
Right.
many times can you get thrown in there? They just have nothing to play for. It's like we keep going there and we don't win. So why are we, and he talked about that
And then
mentality of
now
the
we're
player.
worse. Now we're
Yeah.
even worse
Yep.
off. It's like
Yeah.
we are getting worse. And one last thing I wanted to add was that. Well, damn it. Anyways, I lost it.
It was there, and then it's gone.
You threw me
It
off
was-
with
it was
Manti Te'o.
there.
I got thinking about his invisible girlfriend. I was like, oh shit, I forgot about that guy.
You lost it like he lost his girlfriend. I got it.
Yeah, he just got dumped by my brain.
But I mean, going with that, I'll drop down to the Sunday Night Football game. We'll get to the other game because that's the game that we're actually split on for the first time. The Eagles Rams game, the way I view it, is kind of the same thing. Of the Eagles are finally playing their best football. I know 8-2. It's like they've been playing good football, but people don't realize we started off 2-2. So we started off 2-2. We had some rough losses in the beginning. The team wasn't looking great, but we've got Barkley going full tilt. Jalen Hurts is protecting the football. I mean, there's last 4 or 5 games, literally MVP numbers in terms of the stats that he's putting up. It might be too late for MVP numbers, like in terms of the longevity of the season, and that's fine. But I mean, we're seeing Reed Blankenship and Cooper DeJean play unbelievable defense. The exciting whites, as they wore the T-shirts that said. The Eagles, I think their offense got ranked number 2 in the NFL. And then their defense right now is actually ranked number 1 on PFF. So I think, being completely unbiased, I think this is a game where the Rams are simply outmatched in terms of every aspect of the game. I mean, wide receiver, they have Cooper Kupp and Nakua, and I think that was matched up against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith well. But Dallas Goedert, better tight end, Barkley, better running back than Kyren Williams. Jalen Hurts and Stafford, you can give them both respect, but Hurts is more of a difference maker in terms of he can do multiple things with the football. But then when it comes to defense, I think defense and O-line, I don't really think it comes close to what the Eagles have compared to the Rams.
Yeah, to your point, Barkley is just looking amazing.
He's just an unbelievable.
It's crazy. And then what's the stat of, what is it? 9? Is it 8 or 9 now? Stopped at the 1 or 2 yard line, and then Jalen Hurts, obviously,
he's only got the ball 3 times, and one of those have been a touchdown. So he's got about 10 touchdowns taken away from him, pretty much.
Yeah. So his numbers could be even more unbelievable, just based on those touches right there. But yeah, he's looking like, he did not miss a beat. He's, an elite running back, and this offense does look, amazing with him back there. So yeah. I don't know what the heck the Giants were doing, but
I think it's cool to see too, like they had him mic'd up, and it was like one of the games where Jalen Hurts took 2 touchdowns from him, and like he's behind Jalen Hurts, like screaming at the opponents, like, line this bitch up, let's fucking go, you're not fucking stopping. And he's like, it gets in, and it's like he scored. It's like he's like, fuck you, like you're too small, bitch. It's like, yeah, it was your touchdown, dude. Like you just had 80 yards on this.
But
drive,
that's the thing.
He don't care. And then I saw an interview too, and he said it's insane. Like he was talking about the move, which we talked about on the pod, of him literally doing like a spin backwards jump over a defender. Like it was crazy. It'll probably be in Madden and all that crazy shit. And he talked about like, he kind of threw a jab at the Giants of just like, it's crazy the football player that I am. When you pay me, I don't have to worry about my health. Like, because it kind of goes to show you, like when he's with the Giants, it's like he doesn't have any money in terms of like secured money like the Eagles gave him, where it's like, I'm not going to go run over this guy because if I get hurt, you guys are not going to pay me. So it's like, now that I'm getting paid, you guys are going to see the electricity of like, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do because I'm an athlete and I'm a freak. Like, it's just, it is so fun to watch, and I'm so happy that he is an Eagle. But our first our next 2 ones we'll talk about will be the only 2 that we are separate opinions on. So 11 out of 13. Matt, I think you told us the record is 74-36 as a consensus, which is crazy this season. So super awesome. 8-3, or Yes, 8-3 last week. So let's see how we do out of 11-13. But
Yep.
fancy, me and you, Cardinals over the Seahawks in Seattle. Give me your run of why you took the Cardinals, fans. And before we do talk about the Cardinals and why they're going to beat Seattle, where did the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals play?
That was he was a Heisman winner at Oklahoma. Just so
First
you
time.
know, and he also could have went baseball. And Russell Wilson, he kind of was the same way, and Patrick Mahomes the same way, and those guys got Super Bowl. So it's a matter of time for Kyler Murray to get it together and get that team on the right track. Now they got that Cliff Kingsbury out of the way. I see this as a chance, but I do really like. I see a lot more cohesion with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray. Like it's definitely he's not getting affected by the Call of Duty like we had mentioned before, and
Called
so that
Shrek.
tells you how much it sucks.
Yeah.
So, but Connor looks good. I think Kyler Murray's just really kind of like maturing, I guess, and it
He's
might be
settling
like
in.
it's like, and it's probably a little bit late, but like almost like a rebirth after the injury and everything else, and getting back into the swing of things with an offense that really looks like their scheme fits him really well. It feels like it fits everybody really well. Like
Yeah.
Nobody's forced into something they didn't expect, and with the coin toss of home field advantage, like I definitely would have taken the Cardinals in Arizona, but the Seahawks have seemed to have lost their touch a little bit
That
with
12th
home
man
field
is starting to
advantage.
dwindle out a little bit.
Yeah, like
No
11
Pete
and a
Carroll,
half
no 12th
man.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No,
So-
I love your points, especially right off the rip. The one thing I had with the Cardinals is there was a fun interview that I saw with Marvin Harrison. He was talking about how his connection with Kyler Murray is an all-time high in terms of the confidence that they have in each other, and
Mhm.
what we're starting to see coming out of the bye week too is they are opening up the playbook. He said, there's gonna be so many more things that are being thrown into the second half of the season. And so I'm just excited to see that. I think in a game, Matt, you talk about the coin toss of the game with you see the money lines right there. You see -1, +1. I think when you look at the Cardinals, they can beat you with James Conner. They can beat you with Kyler Murray in the ground. They can beat you with Kyler Murray through the air to Marvin Harrison, and they can do it through their tight end with Trey McBride, right? So
Mhm.
they really have settled in. Like you said, it is an offense that fits Kyler Murray extremely well. Arguably, probably the best offense that he's been involved in since he's been with Arizona. So that's what led it to me. Seattle, I usually would take them at home being the 12th man, like you talked about, but Seattle has lost a lot of those 50-50 games, even though they did win against the 49ers last week. But to me, I'm going to take the Cardinals coming off a bye, and I'm going to take Kyler Murray with how hot that he's. I mean, he's been top 5 quarterback for fantasy football. On all honesty, he has been. So just going to kind of ride the hot hand and hope that it's it's the right side of it.
Yep, I'm excited to see this matchup. I mean, obviously, this is one of the ones, excuse me, that are actually finally close. All the rest kind of seem like no brainers. I think you would agree that most of those other picks. I think the 3 games that are a little bit tighter is the Green Bay matchup, this one, and then the Monday night that we'll see. So to me, just like you're kind of saying, at home is what decides it for me.
Yep.
They're coming off that win. I think they do now kind of have that confidence back again after a couple, shaky losses. So, I think with DK back in the lineup, I think they've got a great opportunity here, especially with how shaky the Cardinals defense has looked. So that's the edge that I'm giving them here. I think, the deciding factor to me is Kenneth Walker has been pedestrian recently. If he can step it up too, that's where it really opens up the DK game. Is you have to establish the run. Kenneth Walker is dominating when he's playing well, which then opens up for JSN, for DK, and then sometimes for Lockett. I mean, it's kind of a hit or miss there, but so to me, that's why I gave them, it's not much of an underdog win, but this is the one of the 2 underdogs that I did choose. Side note, what I did see, I don't know if you guys have seen this, we think of DK as this huge human being, right? He's this big dude. They show him next to Kelvin Johnson was at one of the games, and they're side by side. Kelvin Johnson is just towering over him, makes him look like a little kid essentially.
Really?
It's crazy in perspective just how blessed the Lions were to have him, what a specimen he was, because we think of DK as this huge dude, and then next to Kelvin he was actually kind of tiny. It was kind of cool.
Wow. I want to look that up. I want to see that.
I'll try to find the clip for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say too, before we get to the next page, 'cause we only have one game on the next page. Just looking at this slate particularly, how big of a week this is for the NFC West. The 5-5 49ers, the 5-5 Rams, the 5-5 Seattle Seahawks, and the 6-4 Cardinals. I mean, that that division, that leader can. I mean, this is a huge week for the Cardinals. I think that's really why I lean towards them again. Not to keep hammering the Cardinal side, but them going 7-4. I mean, if we look at it this way and we're accurate on this in terms of Packers winning, the Eagles winning, that puts the 49ers and the Rams at 5-6. And then if me and Fancy are right, that puts Seattle at 5-6. And then we can literally talk about the Cardinals starting to run away with that NFC West at 7-4. So, I mean, it can go a lot of different ways here. But if we are right, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Is one of these two teams are gonna be that game's gonna be the deciding factor of the NFC West leader this week. And then, like I already mentioned, Falcons, Bills, Saints, Jets, Jags, and Bengals all on a bye.
6 teams on a bye. Wow.
Yeah, the Bills record's definitely that's an error. The Bills are not 3-6. That is an error on the production side, which is okay. But the Bills did just come off a big win, a good bye week for them with Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper, banged up. But Monday Night Football, Ravens, Chargers. Like you said, Matt, there's probably about 4 games this week that are not really a toss-up. The one toss-up, obviously, Seattle and Arizona. But then, the Packers 49ers game, the Eagles and the Rams game, and then the Ravens and the Chargers games are pretty much the only ones where you can debate the other side, because otherwise it's a minus 300 or minus 400 or, it's some crazy lineups. This week, and I believe week 14, correct me if I'm wrong, will be the weeks that there are more teams on a bye. So next week we should have more games, obviously. But nevertheless, Monday Night Football, me and Fancy took the Ravens over the Chargers. The way I saw it, Fancy, is I'll give you more room to talk on this one than I will, but kind of simple for me is the Ravens defense is starting to come along a little bit more. We're starting to see their defense be a little bit better. Not where it used to be with, the Ray Lewis days or anything like that, but starting to be a little bit better and tighter on the defensive side. Offensively, way better team than the Chargers. And the Chargers, last week, snuck by that Bengals, win, which cost us our parlay. But so maybe that's why I was really, aiming for the Ravens. I just want to stick it to the Chargers here. But no, I just took the more talented team in this one. As much as I do love the Chargers and Harbaugh and Herbert and all that stuff, the story with J.K. Dobbins, et cetera, et cetera. I just think it's one of those where the Ravens got to get back in the win column, and they got to start, we saw that dominance for a little bit there. They started off 0-2, and then they were like 5-2, and it was like, holy shit, this team's scary. And then now they're starting to fall back in that, like, this team has flaws. It's like we don't view them as that juggernaut. And I think this is that week for them that they, get back in that win column of a good win, in the win column. So,
I mean, yeah, it's definitely it's going to be exciting. If the Chargers were just a little bit more well put together, like I just feel like it's
they have more talent. Like it's a little bit more talent.
Yeah, it's just like you're 6-3. Should you be like, not to shit on any of those guys, but it's just like, I think you're lucky to be where you are. Kind of the same with the Packers. It's like, I think you're lucky to be where you are. Like, this is a big game that you could prove that you're working, you're working out the kinks. But if Lamar Jackson is going to be MVP talk, he has to win this game.
Yeah, I mean that is a fantastic take. I mean, especially when we see him play his worst game against the Steelers.
If he has back-to-back L's like this,
against 2 good defenses. I mean, the Chargers have a great defense. So, and I mean, none of us said it, but obviously we all know it. We get to see the Harbaugh brothers play, so that'll be a fun.
Yeah, that's the battle of the Harbaugh brothers. I think they kind of got it. The Ravens, it's their past defense that's been exposed. You threw us that stat of Joe Burrow 9 touchdowns, but somehow they got away with those wins, right? So, Steelers playing well against them. So it's one of those things where I think with the coach that Jim Harbaugh is, and the way that they've been attacking it through the air, I think that's why, to me, this is a good matchup for them to have the opportunity. Now, will they come away with the win? We might have a super close game like we did against the Bengals, and it's going to take, we saw a couple missed field goals from Tucker, just like we saw a couple missed from the Bengals. So that might be what decides this. But Dicker, the kicker, has the opportunity. Yeah, he has an opportunity to put that leg to use too. So to me, that's and that's what the spread shows, right? It's 3. So maybe it does come down to that kick at the end of the game. And the Ravens have been on the right side of it on a couple of these games, but I think I'm giving a very close game, but I'm giving the edge here to the Chargers because I think they are also looking pretty good through the air. So
yeah, I will say before we get into our DK segment, I did just want to talk about the DK thing you just brought up because I wanted to just I just looked up the picture or whatever, and it was just one of the the reason it looked like he's towering over is they're almost the same height. It was the way the picture was taken, so it looks like Calvin Johnson's way taller, but there's another angle where they're like head to head. So
I gotcha.
Because
it looks, you see
Calvin
it,
Johnson's
it looks funny.
6'5", Calvin Johnson's 6'5", DK is 6'4". So so that's I do see the picture you're talking about. It looks like he's a giant compared to him.
Yeah,
there's
it's crazy.
another picture where they come in close and they're like head to head. So I'm just like, okay, that makes more sense. Because I was like, maybe Calvin was 6'6" and DK was 6'3" or something. That's why I was like, something's not making sense because I'm like, I'm pretty sure they were almost the same.
They're both huge dudes.
They're,
for sure,
they're massive. So, massive dudes.
Pause.
Fancy. All right. To get into our DK segment, though, Fancy came away with the victory this week, which we told Matt if he came in last place again, especially with a 0-point tight end, that he couldn't go double tight end. I didn't even see your lineup, obviously, because you don't send it to us. So I don't know if you actually listened to us. You probably didn't.
We'll see.
Knowing you probably didn't.
We'll see.
But you're falling down there on the thing. Fancy with another championship or another run closer to a championship, with one behind me. But hey, we all picked great quarterbacks this week. Bo Nix, 31.78. Fancy, 37.58, which I will say credit to you, Fancy, because me and Matt did, not that we weren't against Goff, we were just against the matchup. And if they go big, it's going to be a Monty and Gibbs show. And it ended up being all of them show.
Just everything, yeah.
Yeah, just an everything show. But Herbert had a great game against the Bengals, which we all thought it would happen because the Bengals Swiss cheese defense. But then we all had David Montgomery, which is really cool to see. We all had Jennings, which is really cool to see. So every single person we all picked, essentially, really ended up having a big game for us. We all picked Pickens too. 16.9.
Yeah,
so,
our picks did, obviously it's the ones that missed that really hurt us,
Yeah, you spent a lot of money on Henry. He didn't do much.
You
we
threw up a
had
0
shit for tight ends.
Yeah, you threw a 0, I threw a 0, and you had 3.4.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But no, hey, good matchup for you, Fancy. It was good to see us get back into the higher ones because I was winning with 120s the last 2 weeks before that, I think, or something like that. So it wasn't a great one. So it's good to see us all above almost 120 pretty much. And hopefully this week, I mean, I love to see when we're all above like a 160, 170. I love to see it. But definitely a good week for us. So that puts me at 5 wins still in the season. Fancy goes up to 4. And Matt, you were at 2.
Better than 1.
So
it
is better. It is better than 1. And so hopefully when I click this button, you did not go double tight end again. So we'll see. I feel like if I have to guess before I click this, and I did not look, I swear, I feel like you did double tight end, but you threw Taysom Hill in because it's not really a tight end, but it's like he's in everything. But
he's a literal flex.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like you did that, but I could be wrong.
No, they're on a buy. They're on a buy. Otherwise, I would have.
But you still might have. That's why I'm just like he'll still score points on a buy. That's just what Taysom Hill does. Okay. See, I respect that because I'll let you have your point. But Westbrook-Ikhine, he literally has like 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns in the last 6 games. So at least it's someone respectable.
Yep.
All right, so let's just dive right into it. I love the quarterbacks. We have a little bit of everything. It's kind of funny. So obviously everyone sees me, Tommy DeVito, 4K. As soon as they announced it and you sent out the thing, I was like, I bet you I can get Tommy DeVito for a super low price, and then I can just jack up on some. Before I did it, I want to make sure that I had receiver matchups that I really liked or
Yeah.
running back matchups that I really liked. So the reason I'm going Tommy DeVito, he's 3-3 in his 6-game career with the Giants. We saw him have a little bit of flash with that stuff, and he's playing against the worst passing defense in the league. So I think it's a very favorable matchup. I don't think they're going to win, but I think it is one of those games where one of you guys did mention, I think it was you, Matt, that we might see a weird shootout in that game.
Yeah.
Not to keep hammering Tommy DeVito, but that is why I went with him. David Montgomery, touchdown scoring machine. Brian Robinson, I love him. Dallas has a very weak defense against the run. We saw that with Joe Mixon on Monday night. Joe Mixon was an absolute monster Monday night. And then the three-headed monster that I went with receiver was A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, and Malik Neighbors. I think if it ends up being those type of matchups for those guys, if I pick the top 5 or 3 out of the top 5 wide receivers for Week 12, I think this lineup just absolutely smacks it out of the park.
That has your lineup has so much upside, and that's I think that's the difference is everybody could hit 20 some points on your
and
lineup.
As long as Tommy DeVito gives me 10 plus,
yeah,
that's all I really need, right? Zach Ertz, I just went with him, something simple, fancy. I see you went with him as well. A guy that's going to get you 10 points. I mean, he might get you a touchdown. I don't know, but he's going to get 4 catches, 40 yards. You know what I mean? He's going to get you something. And after last week, we saw the zeros and the tight ends on the board. It's just, you can't have them, right? I mean, you can't win a lineup with zeros on the board. And then Matt, you talked about upside. I kept going through. I ended up actually having Jonnu Smith as my tight end, and I ended up switching it, and then I Will Disley, and I ended up switching it. But it ended up working out where I went with Ertz and then Quentin Johnston in my flex. The way I see it is Chargers might have to keep up with the Baltimore Ravens offense of shootouts. And I think we've seen Quentin Johnston be that deep threat guy. I think you're a big fan of him in fantasy football. I think I saw you make a trade for him.
Yep, I picked him up from
so that's a guy that I do see a lot of upside in. And at 4,900, same guy with like Westbrook Akine. You're kind of just going all in on a touchdown, right? He might catch a 60-yarder, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. But I'm hoping this week that he does. And I like the Cardinals matchup against the Seahawks. The Cardinals have actually played really good defense this season that has amounted to them being 6-4. So this is one of my favorite lineups, as funny as it is having Tommy DeVito. I think it made so much room in my cap because of how cheap that position was. So
true.
Yeah, my lineup, I went Bo Nix, and I
love it.
Not a bad price. Definitely one of the most expensive option, and I think not the most I spent, but overall my whole lineup, I still ended up with like $1,200 left over.
I was gonna say that's what it looks like. It looks like you've got some cash left over, probably.
Yeah, I did, and I was kind of like, who would I change out? And
maybe a better tight end.
Is there a better one?
That is fair.
I mean, it's
I don't know in that price point. You might be able to get, but yeah, who knows?
I'm just saying, like in this matchup, I think like not a better one overall, better one for life, but it's just like I'm like, I think this week, it's good. I don't think Bowers is gonna, be the guy. I already talked about James Conner being a big deal. I mean, Kareem Hunt didn't really produce for me last week. I mean, the difference between the Panthers and the Bills is astronomical. And so
the only thing that scares me a little bit, which Matt, I think you're about to bring in, is Pacheco is off the IR now. So this is where, even as a fantasy owner, not to cut you off, fantasy, so I'm sorry, but this is the week where we might see Pacheco. But as a Kareem Hunt fantasy owner myself, I think I still am going to throw in Kareem Hunt because I just don't see them fully giving Pacheco the workload against the Panthers. Like, you know what I mean? So that's where I'm just like, I don't hate the pick whatsoever because it could end up being a run thing, but I just don't see it being the game where they're just like, okay, Pacheco's back. Here's 15 carries. It's like, no, not after a broken fibula or whatever it was. It's like, that's not the game after being 9-1 that we're throwing them in the Wolves against,
and
let's ease them in,
I think they'll give them the opportunity, but you're not going to see a split backfield. So
anyone that's going to see that be like, whoa, Pacheco's back. It's like, relax, because he's probably not going to be,
this might be the last week that you can fully.
Yes.
Right.
Last week
is the difference.
Probably the week. Yeah. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean,
touchdowns for fantasy will be for you. I mean,
it's like just like this, like a little farewell tour would be kind of cool. And then McConkey, we like him. I like him. I like watching that little dude out there.
McConkey.
He's fun. And
he gives me Wes Walker and Edelman. He gives me touch.
I love those little guy wideouts that just.
But why does he look so weird in that helmet? Like, I know
his head is so small. That's what it is. It's like,
is that what it is?
Yeah, I saw. He like turned around and it's like it was like a little kid in a helmet, like a Halloween.
really
you know?
does
It's
look
a
like it. It's
spacesuit.
silly.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's so
exactly.
funny.
Spacesuit, exactly.
Yeah, moving on. I got more. I mean, the Bears are there's too many teams to that can tank it for the season for the Bears to go ahead and try to tank it. So I still see them trying to win this. It is going to be divisional. I don't see them winning, but Moore is gonna get he's gonna get the targets. Like he's got to. If there's gonna be any hope for Bears fans in the future and Caleb Williams, saving his season and keeping his resume kind of on the positive side, he's got to make some targets that way.
Especially when you
And
pay DJ Moore that much money, it's like you gotta
right,
throw him the
like
ball.
it just all adds up.
Yeah.
That if they play decent football that we would maybe like to watch. And then Sutton. I mean, we're talking about matchups.
Yeah, I
Knicks
took Bo
to
Nix to
Sutton.
Sutton last week. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's good. Ertz, we talked about it. Little old guy, but I mean it's Dallas, and we see what kind of shambles them and their stadium are in. So I think Ertz will have a day as a tight end would. And I like Brian Robinson. You talked about him. I think we've got a lot of similarities, all between the three of us. And then Lions defense. I think I had him last week too, and I'm surprised that they're gonna walk all over Indy. I think they're gonna have 9 pick sixes.
Yeah, and that's why you see that that's definitely a high price defense. But when you have the money left over, I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
they're almost scoring 10 points a game, which is double what basically mine and Matt's average this season. So I like it. I do.
My lineup kind of go like I love a lot of these matchups. So it's a lot of it's typically matchup oriented. So to me, the first one to target was actually my QB spot. I really, anytime anybody's playing the Giants, like that's the matchup you want so far, unless it's the Jags. But so that's what I attacked first. And Baker's been playing really well too. So I kind of did a double stack there. Unfortunately, not with Evans. I really wanted to try to fit him in this lineup, but I didn't. So I ended up going with Bucky and Cade Otton. I think you don't have as much of a ceiling as you've had with Cade Otton with now that Evans is back, unfortunately. So, that might be a little bit of a downside. I will tell you, I did have Ertz in my flex spot originally with you guys. But because you've been berating me.
Watching this be the week that Matt wins, it's like, all right, you should go back to double tight end now.
Yeah. No, so I mean, like you said, I'll hit that flex Westbrook Akine. He's got that obviously it's going to be touchdown dependent if he has that 60-yard touchdown, if he has that play. And to me, Houston can give that up. It can be, it's the downside is it's going to be either Ridley or him catching that route. So,
we saw him give up a big play to the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. I mean,
yeah. So I think it is, it's one of those things where, yeah, that's the flex spot. So it should have upside. So maybe that's where I'm, kind of been wrong with the double tight end is it's probably too consistent potentials. There's no huge play potential there.
That's where I always mentally thought about it was the tight end. Give me someone that's going to give me 10, 15 points consistently a week. Anything more than that is a plus. You see it with Kittle and Bauer and guys like that. But I like the way your mindset was I was always, like guys like Rashad Bateman, like throw them in the flex. And I think you would go double tight end and you would go big on a running back and big on a wide receiver, like a Henry and whatever. And then you double the tight end up and you know what I mean? And that's where it was like, if it worked, you won obviously, but having a top tight end, especially this season, I think I saw like Chris Boswell is literally he's more fantasy points than every single tight end so it's one of those like crazy things of just like there's just not a lot of points at this year. It's just a really weird position. So besides Bowers, obviously.
Yep. So I went the other side. I think either side of Sonic and Knuckles, you pick Montgomery, I pick Gibbs. I think they both have, great potential there.
I think Montgomery's got to be the most picked by us this season. I feel like he's in every one of our lineups every single week. Him and Jennings, they've been and Sutton. I feel like I see Jennings, Sutton, and Montgomery in almost every one of our lineups every week. So
pretty cool. And I think and then you guys already went over, the matchups for McConkey,
Yeah.
Jennings, and Neighbors. So I think those all have big play potential.
I like all those.
On those types of games. So
I like seeing my lineup with all the greens. I love the fact that I'm playing a bottom half defense on every matchup for all those guys. One
Yep.
thing we definitely just like grazed across before we get to our podcast parlay and we get into trivia. Tommy DeVito starting. I feel like people don't even realize this, but like Drew Lock was the number 2 quarterback. Like, so it was Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, and then Tim Boyle. Like, that was the depth chart in quarterback. Now going into this week, that's why Drew Lock, if you've seen the video, Drew Lock feels like why was I number 2 then? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So that's
he said it without
they asked him,
saying
he was like,
it.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to understand too, So he kind of felt like a jab. So now though, the depth chart, it's crazy. The depth chart is literally number 1, Tommy DeVito, number 2, Drew Lock, number 3, Tim Boyle, number 4, Daniel Jones. So I feel like that Daniel Jones is done. Like, he's done in New York. He will never play another snap for New York, which is crazy because they still have him under 1 year, I believe, for like $45 million or something like that.
They can't risk it with all that guaranteed money.
Yeah, it is crazy that he goes from number 1 to number 4. It wasn't just like we're gonna bench you. If this guy does bad, we'll throw you back in. It's you're done. Like, we're done with you this season. So
you're done.
It's you're not that guy, pal. I mean, So the podcast parlay though, wow, what another we were so close. I hit mine. Mine was Cedric Tillman over 40 alternate receiving yards. Matt, you had Bo Nix over a 175 passing yards alternate. And then Fancy, you went with the Bengals. That was a consensus pick, so we really did love it. And we saw the Bengals game just come so close, especially when they were getting blown out in that game. We was like, man, that was such a stupid bet. And then we see the Bengals come all the way back just to lose right at the end there. It was tough. It was really tough. But right now we're gonna win this week. A plus 511 for you guys. That is an absolute banger for us. Usually we're around the 300, so we're feeling good this week. We're gonna nail this week. Fancy, you played on the safe side for us, so me and Matt can just go for the deep ball. Fancy went the Broncos money line. Matt, you went with Mike Evans first game back. Mike Evans has 11 touchdowns in 9 games against the Giants in his career. First game back, he's going to be looking to catch up on that 1,000-yard receiving season, that streak that he's got going on. So he's going to have to do a lot of production to get caught back up in that margin there.
But I feel like as soon as they're in the red zone, they're going to him.
Absolutely.
It should be right away.
Absolutely. And then I went, which is funny because if you see this, they'd probably think that you picked Amon-Ra St. Brown, but right. I've been debating it. I told you pre-podcast in production. For about 3 or 4 weeks now, I've been debating, having a St. Brown touchdown in here, or even just putting money on it myself. 8 straight touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown, $25 to win 152. Just to give you guys an idea, I think, Matt, you already mentioned, or you maybe not mentioned it on here, but Amon-Ra St. Brown with 8-game active streak. Randy Moss is a 10 game. So he actually, Amon-Ra St. Brown is tied with Devontae Adams, Antonio Brown, Wes Walker, and then he's 1 away from tying AJ Green and Antonio Gates, and then 2 games away from tying Randy Moss. So he's on that page. We talked about it pre-production about how I think with the way Dan Campbell and them are, and they get up on teams and they run these fun stuff, I think it's going to be an emphasis to get him in the end zone and keep that streak up, because he has really, deserved it, obviously. So let us know in the comments if you guys are going to tell us on that, on this parlay. We're due. It's going to be a good one. And next we got trivia with Matt. So I'll catch you on the trivia side. Alrighty.
Yep. Welcome in trivia time. I'm glad we talked about it today. Otherwise, this stat might have gone to waste. But we talked about field goals, and I feel like earlier in the season we were talking about all these 50-yarders getting hit.
Yep.
And then now it's kind of the downside of it is all these field goals
dwindled down,
getting missed. So it might be a tough one, but kind of think about all the things you talked about already with it. Try to name the bottom 6 teams that are under 75% field goal percentage this season.
Fancy, how have the Packers been kicking this season before they got Brandon McManus?
Not good. And I mean, even then, he missed one Sunday.
Okay, well, I'm gonna if Fancy's not gonna name it, I'm gonna say Packers.
Oh no, I am. Sorry,
No, you're good. You're
there's
good.
someone at the car wash with their freaking speakers blasting. I was like, what the? Man, I thought someone was knocking on my door.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
rip Packers together. Let's that
Yeah,
feels good.
Packers
no,
for
sir.
sure.
No,
sir.
Okay.
So there's someone worse than us.
There's
I'm trying to
that's
think.
good. You just gave Fancy a lot of confidence. So that's
I'm
good.
like,
Well, in terms of the stat that
Here,
I
let me
gave
tell
out,
you. Let me
well,
tell you
in
where
terms
they're
of-
at, though. Maybe
in terms of the stat that we gave out or that I gave out earlier about Evan McPherson, I'm gonna say Bengals.
yeah, I got Bengals.
I do want to tell you, 75% on the nose were the Packers, though. So they were the next team out. So
we were number 7.
So
we
that was good work. But
Technically, we were
under 75%.
I know, but technically we hit the 75%.
Okay.
So
All right, give me it again.
Bengals.
With those two awful misses, that yes, they are. They've missed 6 field goals. They're at 71.4%.
Hasn't Younghoe Koo? He's kind
Yes,
of
I was
been
gonna say
missing lately.
Atlanta's missed quite a bit.
Those are the ones, especially the week before we talked about it. 7 missed field goals.
I'm gonna go 49ers because Debo literally punched his own kicker after like 3 misses that game. So I'm gonna go with 49ers.
I don't see them even on this bottom half. Yeah,
there's no way Jake Moody missed like
they've missed 4.
Game.
They've missed 4. Those are the 4.
It all just came one game. All that anger came out, I guess. Yeah.
86.7% in the year, though.
All right, that's fair enough.
Oh
man,
Jags?
No, I feel like
I don't think they kick enough.
Yeah, they just don't kick enough.
Yeah, they're not there.
It's like what team?
Aubrey's hot still, right?
I'm just gonna make maybe like maybe it's a crazy one. Like it's one you wouldn't think, but the Ravens with Justin Tucker missing as much as he's been missing.
Yep, with those last couple of misses as
who would
well.
have thought, man? Number one kicker in fantasy.
Uncharacteristically 6 he's missed.
Wow.
Okay.
All right, so we got Bengals, Ravens, Packers.
Falcons. Nope, Packers are out. Remember?
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, yeah. So we have 3.
You guessed them, yeah.
So 3. We have half of them done.
Yep.
All right, man.
I'm
trying to I'm trying to think of more in like prime time that I've seen.
I'm thinking I want to say Jets. I feel like they've missed, like they had a lot, like in London. I feel like they bounced a few. They might have bounced in though.
Fancy gets a gold star because they are the absolute worst at 68.4%.
They couldn't even hit 69.
They tried.
Damn it. We all tried to hit it.
That's how bad they miss. Can't even.
So 4. That was a good poll, Fancy. I did not think that. I wouldn't have guessed.
Think about teams that just barely lost. Like I want to say Giants, but then like
no, the Giants. The Giants. I know they've kicked it decent a bit. But well, man. All right, so we have 2 left.
Yes, you have 2. I was just trying to find the Giants for you real quick to give you perspective. Giants are 81%.
Wow. Okay.
I don't even know who the kicker for or actually I do Daniel Carlson. It's not. I swear, if he's on this list, it's not the Eagles, is it?
Yes, sir.
Because I knew I was texting Green about it. I'm like, what the fuck are we paying this guy for this much?
He also had.
It was like one game.
I was gonna say he also had one. I think he missed 3 in one game.
Yeah. It was just one game.
So yeah, he's missed 5. So he's at 73.7.
All right, so one game left, or one team left. I'm sorry. How many have they missed?
6.
I was hoping you give me like a better number that can maybe. That's like. Damn it. I don't know why, but I've been wanting to rip Arizona. I take it that's not.
So Prater has been hurt. Otherwise,
I think it's
true. No, they're 17 for 18.
Good. Okay. I just knew Prater was out, and I just didn't know. I think they have like that Ryland guy in there or something like that. So I just didn't know like how well that whole situation.
Well, and it's it's one of those things where if it's a different kicker, they're not trying those 50-yarders or those long.
Right.
Field.
They're keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple.
What do you
It-
what do you what do you think about the Seahawks?
I know Myers is having a decent season. I was gonna rip the Bears.
So-
that was my second thought.
Both those teams 14 for 17.
Okay.
While you guys are thinking about it, I just so you know, the Lions, even though they don't really kick field goals, are 15 for 15.
Shout out to Jake Bates. What a great name.
100%. Jake
By the time you guys
is
got a kicker.
we've always had kickers.
Well, you had him on your team, you just didn't use them.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are the days of Jason Hansen, who was, the original automatic for how many years we had him. It just, you could count on him, Mr. Reliable. Most
Chris
recently, Jason Hansen.
Oh,
And then we had Prater. We got him from Denver,
Yeah.
and he was pretty consistent.
his leg was crazy.
Yep.
His leg is crazy. Man,
So you guys
okay.
are missing, and they've
Yo,
missed
is it AFC or NFC?
AFC.
I was gonna say the Browns. They went through a lot of kickers.
Yep.
They had say Bear or whatever, and they had someone else, and
Yeah.
Yep.
nothing's going right for the Browns. That was a fun one though. I liked that setup. The Eagles and the Jets. Well, the Eagles didn't surprise me. I knew. I guess when it's like when it's your team, it's like fuck a miss, and it's like fuck another miss. But then it's like,
Right, but
well, he's
sometimes
been good most of the season. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
but it
Yeah.
comes down to those couple times where they've missed.
if you look at the Eagles, how many did he miss? Like how many is it that he missed
5
3? Yeah, he missed 3 in one game.
and 3
So,
in one game, and that's
like,
all.
you get rid of that one game, and he's a 90%er.
Same thing with the Falcons kicker, right? We talked
Yeah.
about it. Like when you miss 4 in one game, that's
Yeah.
kind of gonna sway.
Doesn't go good against the old.
And then you don't get a lot
percentage.
more chances necessarily to
'Cause
kick.
they stopped trusting.
could-
him,
yeah,
unless you're
so it's
a
like
Tucker kind of guy too.
yeah, it
The
takes a
Tucker
little
one
bit.
is kind of crazy though. The Tucker one he's the most accurate kicker in NFL history. So it is kind of crazy to see him kind of start that downfall. And I saw a whole thing that Pat McAfee did with a breakdown of it, and basically, like not at faulting somebody, but they do have a new snapper, and they do have a new placeholder, and the placeholder isn't putting the football down where his finger is at. So say like he snaps it and it's here.
I got
He
you. Yeah.
snaps it and it moves forward, or I'm sorry, it moves closer to Tucker. So that's why he's yanking. They did a video on all the ones he missed, and he misses left every time. And the ball's closer to him. And when the foot swings across, it's swinging across the right side rather than the middle of the football. So between the snapper and the holder, there's an issue going on. So I mean, is that a bullshit excuse? I don't know, but like when I looked at the footage, you can literally see him move the ball forward instead of just placing it where his hand's at, and it's like I can definitely see that being a thing when you're
yeah.
focused on golf. When you're focused on a ball, imagine someone moving the ball in your swing. Like,
That's what I was.
like,
That's what I was going to equate it to. Is
Yeah.
golf is that same thing? It's a rhythm. You've
Yeah.
practiced it. It's the same swing. If you all of a sudden move the ball placement, yeah, you're going to hit a slice or a draw, right? So
yeah. And so if you look at his kicks, they start straight and they curve out left every time, and they curve out left every time. And he misses left every single time this season. So there's something going on in that thing, and I don't know. It just got me thinking about like how many kickers do you think like didn't get the chance to make the name for themselves because they were getting screwed by a placeholder. It's like here's this rookie kicker, and he's like 0 for 2. Okay, you're cut. It's like, well, that dude's moving the football on me. So like, what the fuck do you want me to do?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but no, that was fun. A fun trivia question for sure. A fun pod for sure. So like Matt said, this week could be the week that if me and Fancy end up being on the right side of things, you can see me tie you in that thing. And if Fancy wins the DraftKings, you can see Fancy tie me. So there's a lot of competitiveness going on in between the DraftKings and the the Pick'ems. So I mean, lots of football left. That's all I got for you guys. You got anything else?
Nope, I'm excited.
Nope,
Just trying to
let's get
enjoy it before it's over because
Absolutely. Next week, just to give you guys an idea for you guys listening, we are going to have to record on Tuesday, which works out better anyways because we're gonna upload it Wednesday at noon. We always post it Thursday at noon, but next week is Thanksgiving. So
we got
if we
the 3
post
games.
if we
Yep.
post at noon, there's already gonna be a game already happening. So it is gonna be better if we upload a day before because we have 3 games. Probably the worst games to ever happen in the history of Thanksgiving. We have the first game is going to be the Bears and
Vikings.
No, maybe no. That's
No,
wrong.
Lions are normally in the noon game.
Okay, well I do know this. The one game is Tommy DeVito versus Cooper Rush. So that is the one game.
Bears Lions 12:30.
Okay, so that might be the best game. And then the Dolphins and the who the Dolphins play? The Dolphins play a decent team too.
Packers.
Oh, there you go. So that
And hey, Giants, Cowboys. Like, I mean, who doesn't want to
Dude.
watch the Cowboys lose on Thanksgiving?
Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito.
What a matchup.
So that's our Thanksgiving matchup. So not to drain you guys, 'cause we'll do a whole episode on that stuff, but just want to give you guys an update. We appreciate you guys listening. You know, first pod in the new setup, new house. Excited about that. Matt, you're doing an awesome job with the socials. All I do is post them. Matt's the one that does the graphics behind it. So shout out to Matt's. Halfway through the season, it is a lot of work. But they're doing good numbers and people seem to enjoy it.
Look out for they don't I want to do a full stat. I want to do a full stat one again. I think those were kind of cool. We did one kind of halfway through. I might do the full stat leaders.
Okay,
like
season leaders. Season leaders. I got you.
Yeah, season leaders.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are still confused about those. I wonder what week will not get confused about there, where it literally says week 12 leaders, and they're just like, how is Josh Allen not on this list? And it's like, well, he didn't have 300 passing yards this season or this week, so that is why he's not in the top 5. Like that is how numbers work.
Pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that it's just how social media works. But if you guys aren't following us on our socials, please make sure you guys do. We're doing great on TikTok, and our YouTube has been growing, so we appreciate it. And that's all I got for you guys. So if that's all you guys got, we will see you guys next week for our Thanksgiving episode. So see you guys next week. Appreciate you guys.
Bye.